Hey, you're watching Premo Cooks. Today we're going to show you how to cook quinoa. I'm going to run through the steps, and then if you want to stick around afterwards, I have a few other educational talking points about quinoa to share with you if you're interested. So for starters, we got our quinoa, and I have my measuring cup out. We're going to make 1 cup of quinoa. I'm going with red. That's what I have on hand. This is my personal favorite of all the varieties of quinoa because it's nuttier, and it also doesn't fall apart as easily and retains its shape after cooking. So 1 cup quinoa, and then I'm gonna put in about ½ teaspoon of salt, and then 1½ cups water, or you could use soup stock for extra flavor. And then we're going to cover it with a lid. I'm gonna put it on my simmer burner back here. We're gonna put it on high, bring it to a boil, and then we're gonna reduce it to a simmer once it's boiling and set a timer for about 15 minutes to check on it. But in total, it's gonna take 20 to 25 minutes for it to cook all the way through. Okay, my quinoa is ready, or we're gonna check and see if it's ready rather. So I had brought it to a boil and then I reduced it to a simmer for 15 minutes. And now we're gonna take a look and see if it's done or if it needs a little more time. How you do that is you're going to, I take a spoon to the center and you look at the bottom. If there's water down there still or little bubbles, you're going to want to let it keep going for a bit, but there's actually absolutely no moisture down there. It's perfectly done and it's also not burning. My 15-minute timer was perfect after I started simmering. Now that it's done, what we want to do is just leave it sitting for 10 minutes. It just went through a nice long boiling process. It's super hot, so we want to leave it sitting for 10 minutes, and then what you're going to do is take a fork and fluff it, and then your quinoa is ready to go. You can serve it or store it in the refrigerator for a few days, or even freeze it and save it for later. And that is how you make quinoa. All right, now that we have our quinoa ready, let's talk about what quinoa is. It is not a grain, it's a seed. It's often called a pseudo cereal. So when you are cooking with a grain, there's a ratio of 1 cup grain to 2 cups water that you use. With quinoa, it's not the same. A lot of recipes will tell you to use 2 cups of water, but you're gonna end up with a mushy quinoa. And I'm gonna say mushy a jillion times and tell you the ways in which to cook it to prevent it from getting mushy. Another question that folks ask is what's the difference between white and red quinoa? White quinoa, often it's fluffier and it's lighter in flavor, but because it's fluffier, it tends to be softer and a little mushier. I like the red quinoa, especially for grain salads, because it holds its form. The important ratio to use with water with either one is 1 cup quinoa to 1½ cups of water. And then other important tips for cooking are salting the water that you cook it in, or using soup stock to add extra flavor. Also, if you would like to avoid some of the bitter earthiness of quinoa, which I personally like, if you want to take some of that away, put your quinoa in a mesh colander and run it under some water before you cook it. Oh yeah, that's the last thing. Don't fluff your quinoa right away when it's done cooking. You want to let it stand for at least 10 minutes before you fluff it with a fork. Otherwise, it's going to be mushy.